Hello.
Oh, hello.
Just having a bring them into the room.
Oh my God, they're always in there. And they're getting excited because it's the end of the day and it means food and it means Dad's going to come home. And, you know,
It's just too exciting for them.
actually,
to work.
they like that after 2 minutes, or whether you've been gone for 4 days or 8 hours, the reaction is the same, which is quite lovely.
Yeah.
But it's a bit full on sometimes.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Hang on, let me get this view sorted so I can go. That's it. If I get you there.
I liked your old school. Oh, let me just get a thing for my cup. Your old school television.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fabulous. Is that from Canva as well?
No, that's on Zoom. I was here. I'll play with it. I'll show you. Hang on a second.
That's very sweet.
Here we go.
I remember telly's like. That's great.
I do too.
I need to figure out how to do that.
Well, if you go down to where are you on a big screen that you're looking at? Yeah. If you look down to where you've got the video, and there's a little arrow next where it says stop video.
Yeah.
If you click on that little arrow.
Oh yeah, choose virtual background.
Yeah, only that one. There's one underneath it, which I think is new. It says choose video filter as well.
Oh yes, because that other one I tried and it said I didn't have a green screen. So video filter.
It's a bit more fun, not quite appropriate for work, probably.
I've got nothing. When I go into that video filter and the next box opens up, it says virtual backgrounds, but it says I have none. Do you have like a whole list?
I do. Well, it's either because they maybe like a lot of social media platforms, they roll stuff out at different times and different places, because it does say beta, or it could be because I'm a paid up, I pay for membership of Zoom rather. I
think that might be. Need to look into it, because I think it would be handy to have, and if this is how we're going to be working going forward for the next few years, then paid up Zoom membership is probably a good idea.
There's some very silly ones like this. I mean, sorry, I'm distracted. We're meant to be working. Oh no, I can't turn it off now.
Oh, that's so much fun. I love it. That's pretty cool. What else you got? Hit me.
What else have I got? I've got.
Oh yes, first prize.
Yes, first place. I haven't tried all of these. This one I thought was quite nice. Just
boring pearls.
But we can go for black and white.
Oh, very nice.
But it's a shame you can't do that with the television, really, isn't it?
Yeah. That's great.
It's the usual silly. Yeah, okay. I think we need to
spend all day doing that.
We could.
Do you know what, Sherry? I'm going to pay up just for that.
Yeah.
I quite like that. So I've got clients that use Zoom, but also actually most of them are doing Microsoft Teams. Yeah, and for that one, I tried to get a background after we spoke about the Canva thing. And I don't know if you pay for an upgrade of Teams as well, but it said I didn't have the options of backgrounds, and it just said that I've got a incompatible. I need like a green background screen.
Most of the time Zoom says that, and some of my backgrounds don't work very well. The coffee bar one works pretty well, but if what
I liked about your television one, it still had, oh yes, it was just the outline, it was just the front, still had your paintings behind you. Everything else was super clear, whereas coffee one. Remember when you held up that piece of paper and your
Oh, I
whole
can see it. That's
there's a
right.
whole gap in the middle?
Yeah.
And if you move and your hair, like if your hair is wider than that sort of frame, then
it disappears.
then
Yeah.
it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting that coffee shop.
But
It
if
wouldn't
you,
work for me because I move too much. I'd kind of, you'd see like one eye and a nose every now and then.
well, there's one here that I sometimes think I might use if I'm doing a webinar or something, but again, you need a green screen for it, really.
Ah.
See if I move. Oh no,
That's
wrong way,
good.
wrong way.
Yeah, and you stand to that side so you can
Yeah.
read everything, and that's quite clear.
Mm. Yeah, anyway, enough of that. Enough of that silliness. So nice to see a 7 coming back in. Does this feel like a more solid 7? Oh, I've still got that. Or is that?
It's funny how that overall score is quite a loaded question, because I'm constantly asking myself, what am I basing it on? And it feels more solid in some senses of, you know, a lot has happened in the last few weeks of changes, I feel. So hope has gone to faith, and surrender has entered. And I've been thinking a lot about surrender and acceptance. I kind of feel like I'm moving forward on these really big things. And part of me is thinking, if I'm moving forward on all these things, I'm not feeling particularly energetic. I still sometimes feel like crying. I still sometimes feel anxious. And I suppose I'm doing that black and white thing, thinking, you know, if I feel a 7, then I can't possibly feel those things. They're incongruent with each other. But the reality is, it's winter, it's COVID, it's the 2nd year we're going into COVID, work has changed. You know, there are things happening. And if I was speaking to you or to a friend or to somebody else, I would say, but of course, there's stuff going on. You don't wake up every day full of the joys of spring and happy all the time. And what I'm getting my head around is, just because I might not be feeling that, it doesn't take away the growth that I am making, and the safeness that feels, and the, you know, that feels very solid and safe and supportive where I'm going. Yeah, something a girl I follow put up on Instagram the other day, that it was these, not a balance, but this opposites almost, like, you know, you can be totally together with it or whatever, and you can be a mess as well. You don't, not just because you're one means you're not the other. And I think that's why, and just verbalizing it now is setting it down in concrete for me, and I can see how I can be a 7 or even an 8 in my growth and how I feel, even though I'm feeling tired. I feel a bit weepy today. I feel a bit sad today. Okay. But that didn't stop me from putting a 7, which is interesting. Because in the past, that would have meant, oh, maybe I'm like a 5 or something.
Oh,
but it's not. I'm both those things. Do you hear me?
Yeah, no, that is good, because
quite interesting.
Yeah, when I asked the question, does it feel more solid? I mean, that's kind of a, what does that mean? But I think sometimes early on, when we think of our numbers, they are very fluid. You know, they're kind of washed around, like just bobbing along the sea, being carried by the waves. But gradually, and maybe this is saying a similar thing to what you were explaining with this person, that we begin to internalize the number, so that irrespective of what the waves are doing, we have a firmer grip on it, because it's about us and who we are, not what's going on around us. it's a bit more identity related, I suppose.
Yeah. That's lovely. Gosh, it took me 10 minutes to bleh, and you just said it in a sentence. But yes, so that's more identity. So that number is the internal dial, really, that keeps me upright.
Yeah. And even being able to,
even if you're feeling a bit sad, feeling a bit vulnerable and open and sad today, fuck knows why, but that's the truth of it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter. I think you're right. There is a definite difference between, you know, that whole, you know, because people used to say this to me, oh, you know, at 9 o'clock I'm this number, at 10 o'clock I'm that number. And whilst we do have these ebbs and flows, there should be a fairly core number that we might do a little bit of movement around, but it remains more constant for us. And yeah, we can still, as you say, still be sad, but the core number may not shift very much. It doesn't mean I'm deeply unhappy at my core.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And sadness is fine, and fear is fine, and anxiety is fine if it's in context, if it's proportionate, if it's, you know, because we experience those things, and it's not, you know, we don't do this work in order never to feel those things, because that's not realistic.
No.
Yeah, that just makes a lot of sense, because I have struggled with the number thing. You kind of think it has to be this all-encompassing, what do I feeling? Yeah, anyway. But yes, I understand it better as a core identity. And really that might not even, you know, once you get to a good place, that might not even fluctuate that much. I mean, it might go up or down a number, but I can't imagine a core identity like that once I, you know, if I reach a 8 next time or whatever, I can't imagine that I'd one day wake up and I'm a 5, because I would have learned that stuff that gets me to the 8, and I might feel maybe 7 a little bit that day, or 9 a bit, one, you know, either way.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah, that's making sense.
Yeah, it's completely it. And if we sort of stick with the water analogy a bit, if you think about the ocean, you know, on the surface, it moves a lot according to the elements. You know, it's like huge waves or just little gentle waves. But dive down deep enough, and there's very little alteration in the movement. So if you think about that as a metaphor for self, it is when we're very surface driven, you know, we're very, oh, you know, what's happening here? And oh, what does someone think about this? Or what does someone think about that? What do I think? What should I? You know, we're in that, it's a very superficial, quite a thin veneer of a space that we allow ourselves to operate in, that we've kind of been taught and we've lived in for a long time.
And we get bashed about. I mean, we get taken from side to side with that.
Completely. And we feel out of sorts completely. So even when things might be superficially going well, we can still feel that it's not right. Why is it not right? And that's as we get deeper and deeper into ourselves of feeling more, you know, all those phrases, centered and all that stuff.
It's true though, and solid. Yeah. Kind of feet on the ground regardless of what's happening above. That's nice. I like feeling solid.
What I was going to talk about, which is quite superficial really, it was the but we need to still do some of that.
I like superficial.
Was something you're really familiar with, we're all familiar with, which is the inner critic. And if you said, so today you've been feeling, you know, not great. So just tell me a little bit about your day. What's been going on in your day? What have you been?
I've had a lovely day. woke up when it would have been easy to stay in bed,
Nice.
because I didn't sleep that well last night. And I got up and I meditated, which was great.
Nice.
And actually, the first thing I did was I looked at that question, if, you know, what does surrender look like?
Yes.
Not just feel like.
Yeah.
And I journaled a bit on that till my tea was ready to drink, drank my tea, and then meditated. So that's kind of my morning. And then I fired off a couple of emails that I'd been not procrastinating on, but I'd been thinking on. I had to give figures and sort of dates and things, and I thought I'm going to do that before I do the next pleasurable thing, because I was thinking of flow and ease, and I was thinking of enjoyment and all those things. And I decided today is the day I'm going to start dressmaking. I've never made a dress in my life. I've never cut out a pattern, and my table is strewn with all fabric and stuff. And I thought, but before that, another way of making life good for me and looking after myself is responding to the work stuff that I need to do. So I fired off the emails, and then I've just been getting my head around watching YouTubes, finding out what a baste stitch is and a top stitch and a fuck knows what stitch. And it's brilliant. So I've cut out my pattern, and then I realized I need bias. I had to Google bias, so I bought some bias. And yes, and then I went and fed the goats and things, and here I am.
Sounds great. It sounds great. Yeah.
Very, very good. And the reason all of that is particularly great is that often, historically, during the week, if it's a working week, Monday to Friday working week, this kind of stuff would only be allowed on a weekend,
Right.
you know, dressmaking.
Yeah.
On a weekend, and regardless of whether I had enough work to keep me at my computer and busy for the next 8 hours, I would do that thing of keeping busy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would not touch the dressmaking, and I would just have a shite day that somehow didn't really do anything because I have no work, you know, right now. There's nothing, I mean, I've got talks to write and management training, stress management, but not today, I don't have to. So, yeah, it was quite huge. And I remember the talk we had about going out on the bike and how all that stuff informs our, well, it informs everything else. It informs how we sleep, our relationships, our work, it informs everything. We're just not taught that.
No, that's probably because people don't know it, and one of the reasons they don't know it is because everybody's recycling what they learned. So it takes a long time before we stop recycling and go,
because it is that old school of thought of success and school and learning and work and what work means. It certainly doesn't involve fun or flow or dressmaking.
No.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Nice. I like that. That's really good. What did you, when you thought about surrender, you said, I was thinking about what does that look like? What kind of thoughts came to mind for that?
So the surrendering thing specifically came up a few days ago when I had planned a video call with a good friend of mine, and it's not her, it's definitely me, because I do it with a number of people. I always want to fix or advise or help or resolve, or because they're my friends and they're in pain, and I will do anything for them. And this is I've come to this realization really in the last year, that actually I'm the common denominator behind all of it. So what I do is I give too much and I offer solutions, advice. I get frustrated, resentful if somebody doesn't take the offers because it's worked for me, and why don't they just do it?
Yeah.
So I try and fix. I finish the conversation, I'm exhausted. So this goes on for months or years, and I'm so resentful and I'm so exhausted. I actually never want to see them or speak to them again. And then I pull away because I don't want to see them or speak to them again because I'm so exhausted by them draining me.
Yeah.
And hallelujah, it's been about, not a year, 6 months that I've really come to realize that it's not just a little bit, I play a little part in it. I play the whole part in this. This is happening because of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So part of surrendering and accepting and flow and ease was not trying to fix somebody else.
Right.
So I spoke to my friend and we chatted, and things are hard for her at the moment with work and with personal relationships and stuff. And I just listened. And I think we spoke about this last week, and then me and her started speaking about hobbies and sewing and gardening, and she's the one who gave me the idea for the dress. It came up with my husband as well. Something kicked off, and normally I try and make it fine and calm it down and just try change everything, really. Fix. And I've been catching myself grinning, just going, no, and just sitting back and just listening and not being affected by it and not offering advice, suggestions to help, to fix whatever. And it's freedom. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Although I still couldn't stop myself with my friend last week. There's a book that really helped me quite a lot when I stopped drinking. Well, I'd already stopped drinking, but it's a fantastic book. And I said, I'll get it for you. And I bought it on Amazon, got sent to her house. And she wrote to me the next day and she said, oh, I'm feeling so guilty because I'm still drinking. I can't read the book, can't start the book. And normally I would phone her and we'd discuss it, and it would be blah, yada, 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 yada. And I just wrote back and said, you don't have to stop drinking before you read it. And that was it. That was one sentence, which for me, Shirley, is huge.
It's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is pretty life-changing. And I think one of the facets of surrendering and acceptance is just not fixing and advice and
yeah. So how have you felt about that, doing that?
It feels like my chest is open and I can breathe, because the opposite of that, when I'm suggesting and pushing and trying to make them see my point of view, or my, what it is I'm trying to say, I can feel the overwhelm and agitation kind of bubbling in my chest, and makes me feel a bit sick. My chest feels a bit tight. And it's really lovely. I'm very conscious of doing it now, and I'm practicing it consciously. So when I speak to somebody, whether it's at work, I had again the opportunity this week. My colleague was talking to me and she's a bit down because of COVID, and normally I would go all out and I just listened and I said a couple of things, and it just feels, it doesn't feel, what's the word? It doesn't feel natural yet, because I'm going to have to practice it. It's really a conscious effort, but I feel at peace and relief that it's not my problem. I don't have to fix this. And I did wonder sort of where it came from. And I know from growing up, I always had to be very good. You know, I was a good girl and I did all the right and all the right things, and especially within the country and within my family, always putting other people's feelings before my own, especially as a female. And it probably stems, I think, a lot from that, although it doesn't matter where it comes from. But I've noticed I do it for a few years.
Yeah.
I've been noticing it, and now I'm doing something about it.
So you are doing all the right things, you're noticing it, you're doing something about it, it's working. So I think this, the tiny, like a little slight edge forward from that is simply to capture in your journal or wherever you're writing it, what you've just told me. So to remind you of the actions and the attributes and the feelings that are associated with that surrender. Because right now it's clear in your mind, but you know, a week from now, or you know, a month from now, you might forget what that bit of clarity was because you know something else has happened. So what I heard you say when you described surrender, and whether this is acceptance as well or just the surrender piece, and acceptance is different, you clearly said, I listen. So when I surrender, I listen. When I surrender, I breathe. When I surrender, I feel an openness in my chest. When I surrender, I let go of fixing. And
that's
you
exactly
recognize all of
I've got
those.
that down written
in
different bits, but yes. And I think I also wrote here, I just said at the end of the day, I have faith that all is well and that I can handle difficult situations, painful situations, fear, loss. I think surrendering is part of that as well. So it's, you know, it's with others and within myself as well. Maybe that's why I never surrendered in the past, because I didn't have hope, I didn't have faith, and I was feeling I had to hold on so tight.
Yeah, because
to control
that surface level.
That's up there.
You have to hold on there because you can't survive it.
And that's the thing about the sense of openness. And now that I just say that the tightness, the holding on is so tight. It's so restrictive. It's so like this, and the letting go is the opposite. I mean, it's just amazing. It's just no fight, at all, and it's such a lovely feeling, and it's a freedom. It's the same freedom I felt when it's the same kind of similar to when I stopped drinking, because I don't have to deal with all the stuff that happens when I drink anymore. That I don't have to think about that or worry about that. And the surrender is the same. I just let go, and it's so great. There's all this like really hard stuff I don't have to do anymore. I can just do the easy stuff, and it's actually easier letting go. Although, hello, why did nobody tell me? Hello.
I know, because it's easy when you finally do it, but it isn't easy when you don't know how. It's really hard, because I can remember, I mean, decades I've heard people, and you read books, you listen to people talk about surrender, letting go, you know, meditation, Buddhism, surrender, letting go. And I used to think, I don't get it. So I don't get it. Until the day you do get it.
Until you do get it, yes.
Oh my goodness, it's this. So the only reason I think you have got it, but to remember the physical sensations associated with it for those potential moments when we, you know, and they will happen when we get into an overwhelm and we can't access clarity of thought to think ourselves through it. we can try to access feeling ourselves through it.
Mm. Isn't it incredible though that, like you say, we know this shit. I mean, I have been reading, you know, I've been reading, and I'm such a self-help freak. I've read everything that there is to read, and, you know, it's taken till now to resonate. And what is interesting, because this is the second time I've experienced this, when you move from whatever you are unhappy with into this knowing, and you move over, there's no big fanfare, you know, it's not like balloons and a circus come to your house, and or there's an announcement on the news and you tell everybody. It's this quiet internal thing where you've just stepped through a doorway, and you're into this next space, and people looking at you, you know, might not be able to tell, or they might. I don't know, I've been looking at Chris thinking, I'm not going to say anything, but like, can't he see that I'm different? I mean, like, I feel so different recently, and like, can't he, you know, can't he tell I have faith, and I'm surrendering, and because it's such a huge thing, but there isn't this big external, because according to him, of course I should have faith, and of course I should surrender, because he thinks I'm fabulous, and why would I not?
But he will notice. He's probably one of those guys that either it takes a little bit of a time, you know, they do need a bit of bludgeoning around the head, or he just doesn't express it. He's thinking it, but not expressing it.
Yeah, he's just not in touch with shit. It might come out in a few years' time.
It might, and you might be quite surprised that because I think when I first started meditating, so ages, I mean, my son still doesn't meditate, but you know, having people say, oh yeah, you're much calmer than you used to be, and I'm thinking, oh, so they do notice, so they are noticing. So people, they are noticing, and they will notice, and some will tell you and others won't. Yeah, maybe not ever, but they probably will get around to it. They go, oh yeah, actually, oh yeah, you have been calmer. Oh yeah, you have been. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right though, he does notice. He doesn't say, yeah, he does, you know, he doesn't talk about feelings, so he doesn't talk about stuff, as he likes to call it. So yeah, and he's definitely more observant than what I am. He's pretty good at that. Anyway, it doesn't matter whether he does or doesn't, but it is interesting that it's this quiet stepping forward, and not this major thing that everybody in the world externally can see has happened to you.
No, but it does link to the external world, because
it links to everything.
Yeah, it's recognition that actually that I am not the external world. I'm not it.
I'm so glad to have discovered this. I've been waiting 52 years to feel more me.
Yeah. Well, leading on to being more you, because I think, you know, we don't need to go. I thought, you know, critic, we don't really need to do that. But just to cement being more you, this is one of those questions that you might well have posed to other people in the past, and it's like, really?
Oh, how loaded is it?
Well, no, it's a little bit loaded. It's about your positive attributes. What do you value in yourself? What kind of qualities and attributes?
It's funny, things like that I still find difficult, although, you know, I've done them and I get better at it. The things I value in myself, sort of from the top down, really, is fairness. I'm definitely one for the underdog, so fairness and equality. The absence of that makes me very angry makes me very sad. Independence.
So you're
you writing them down because I'm not. Independence, autonomy, without a doubt. Very, compassionate and kind and organized. And I value that in myself and others, and my husband's the opposite. He's not organized. I should have written them down because I'm visual.
I'll give them back to you in a minute.
Think of
you want me to, but
go on.
Go a bit further and then I'll give them back to you. Or do you want me to give them to you now?
No, it's fine. Humor, sense of adventure. What would the word be? Opposite of conservative, openness. And I know this because people have told me I'm good at, and I do value it in myself. I think it's an attribute. People feel comfortable with me opening up to me, or just feel comfortable with me. They don't have to open up. Yeah, and I've run out now. I'm sure there's thousands more.
There will be. And I will ask you, I don't normally ask you to do any homework at all, but just a little bit before Friday, because we can use this again. So let me just feed back to you what you gave me. Assuming I can read my writing because I do scribble terribly. So compassionate, kind, organized, a sense of adventure, humor, not a word for it, but good at making people feel comfortable with you. And there were 4 that you gave. I just want to come back to you. Do you want to capture those first? Because I did them a bit quickly.
What are the 4?
The 4, well, the reason I want to mention them is that you mentioned autonomy, fairness, openness, independence. The reason I just want to focus on them is that the way you phrased them was how I would describe it as it's still external to you. So we're talking about your personal attributes, but it's almost like it's not a full ownership. So you used the generic term of fairness rather than saying I'm fair.
I see what you mean. Yes. So why did I do that? What did I mean by fairness? Well, fairness is important to me, that everyone is treated fairly. And I suppose I know, or I try to be as fair as possible.
That's, yes.
And we were talking about my attributes. I wasn't talking about what I find out in the world to be.
No, but I'm just posing a question. It's not for me to answer, but it was interesting to me that there were key ones: autonomy, fairness, openness, independence. I suspect they are attributes. You know, you are independent, you are open, you are fair, you have autonomy. But if we go back to the notion of what's at the core versus what's on the surface, it's like they're still swimming around on the surface just a little, like you're not yet willing to pull them in. And,
them.
Yeah. You know, maybe because for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter, but it's about, yeah, bring them in if they're important.
I'm glad you mention them, because it's really those 4 are, you know, probably the four most important
Yes.
ones. And autonomy and independence, I mean, without a doubt.
Because when you bring it back to you, rather than it being about independence, I'm independent.
I am independent, I am fair, I'm open, I have autonomy.
Yeah. Not just because you say it differently, but because when you say it like that, when you have to adopt ownership of it, and that then naturally draws other questions within yourself, and also like a barometer of you feeling comfortable in yourself, of, you know, what do I interpret as fair for me? What is it? How am I when I feel like I'm being fair? What do I do when I'm feeling rock solid with my independence? And it starts to link to that behavior, to that specificity. You knew I was going to bring that in.
I don't think we're going to get through a week without specificity.
I don't think so. No, you're right.
No.
Locked in now.
But yes, I can see how it's linked. So it's not just the thing of saying it's open, but then how am I, where am I? And that just leads to so much else.
It really does. And it deepens your understanding of not just how and what, but who. Because when fairness is kind of out there in the big wide world, you can still feel uncomfortable with it without recognizing why you feel uncomfortable when someone does something that might not be your version of fairness. And so that can lead to that kind of, it's not feeling right. Like you said, when you're fixing things, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel right. If it's like, I'm fair, then you put your own labels on it. You determine
what is fair. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can surrender the other stuff.
I like that. Just realized that's, lots to think about. That's lovely. The whole language thing is just really getting to grips with how important it is and how different it feels in your body when you say things from that point, not just fairness and there it goes into the ether and what is that, but I am fair, and then subdivisions under that. How am I fair? Where am I fair? What is fair?
Yeah. Because I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect that you've either been way back, and yes, you know, we don't need to go back, but you've either been judged for being independent, or stuff has happened that has felt unfair, but it's outside of you, and so that's why you feel about them like they really matter, but owning them is, I am independent, and it's okay. And you know, whatever happened, because I think often, even if there's nothing specific, people can rob us of them. They can do.
I can see how they can relate. You know, growing up, I can't speak for my siblings, but growing up, I never had a voice. And my dad was, I mean, he even called himself, he said the words, Lord and Master of the house.
Yeah. So actually saying that you're independent is not the done thing.
No, not at all. The autonomy to choose, lots of unfairness because you didn't have a voice. So it didn't matter what you said or didn't say. It wasn't going to be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
You know, things were unfair.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, and I think, you know, it's nature nurture thing. Hi, babes. It's nature nurture thing where you're born with certain things. And I think I was always born with a certain sense of independence. I mean, that is at my core what I enjoy and who I strive to be. So growing, I suppose now I'm relating the two, growing up with that, here was something that was a real core value of mine that was intrinsic in me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to demonstrate or you know, let out. Yeah.
So it's a value that you've been able to own for a long time. You can own it as a value, and that's okay. So, but because it came up when I asked you about attributes, that's why I'm saying, look at it in terms of what you are. I am independent. What does that mean for me? I am open. I am fair. I am autonomous.
I like that. Nice things to think about.
It's just, I'll probably do, I might do this on Friday. Well, I say that, I probably do, I never do what I say I'm going to do I? But just close your eyes for a second. And I'm just going to feed them back to you. So this is you, Rose. You have a great sense of humour, a sense of adventure. You're compassionate, you're kind, you're organised. You make people feel comfortable. You're independent, you're open, you're fair, you're autonomous. You have a great sense of humour, Rose. You have a great sense of adventure. You're kind and organised, compassionate, and people feel comfortable with you. You're independent and open and fair and autonomous. So you can open your eyes. How does that feel when someone gives it back to you?
It's lovely. I could play you on a loop.
Yeah.
The first one was a bit like, and then the second one just felt like, yeah, baby. And I was thinking of all the other words I should have thought of as well.
Well, you might need to remind me, but we'll do that on Friday. So we'll use that as the core of.
Okay. Yeah.
Or we'll build stuff around it. It doesn't have to be the only thing we do, but we'll do that again on Friday with the session.
It's nice. It's nice to hear, and you know, your delivery and saying it with conviction and truth and belief, and I mean, what is pretty awesome is that they sit well, not feeling uncomfortable with them, whereas in the past I probably would have. But I'm owning them. I feel it and I am those things. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I look forward to Friday doing that.
Good. So any more that come up for you in between, jot them down and we'll put them into the mix. Because I've done sessions like this so many times in the past, and I kind of like doing them because it's often the case that we aren't comfortable with owning things that we're, you know, it's blowing our own trumpet. It's like, oh, no.
And you also told not, you know, that's another thing, we told not to do that. Don't brag about, you know, who do you think you are? That kind of, well, what a pity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's,
you know, if a child had to come up to you and say, I'm, you know, and you're like, oh, please don't. No, I'm good, thank you. I've been offered tea. Actually, I wouldn't mind tea with sugar. I forgot to put sugar in my last one. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, we're not encouraged to. I suppose kids nowadays are. You know, my younger brother lives in Australia, with his ex-wife and the kids. He stayed. I mean, they moved out there, they got divorced, and he stayed so he could be close to the boys. And the kids, you know, they live in the middle of nowhere, go to a great school, and they get awards for being compassionate and kind. And they had to write up a list of their attributes the other day. You know, and Echo had to say that, you know, I am kind, and I help mummy, and I do this and I do that, and it was so lovely. We were never encouraged to. No, we were never encouraged to do that.
No. Oh, well, that's nice to hear.
Do you know what they also learned? I've just got to tell you before we go. It was so sweet. They had to do your inner circle of the people that are most important to you, and then sort of go, I don't know what the background of it was, and Auntie Rose was right in that inner circle, close to mummy and daddy and stuff, and he was able to place, you know, like his mountain bike was right in the middle as well, because that's really important to him. And he was able to place his brother and his cousins and events in his life at his little young age of what, like 11, whatever, into this circle of these things that support him, that make him who he is, that make him feel good.
I don't think they're doing anything stuff like that in our schools. I'm sure
I think I was 37 the first time I did that.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I think the kids nowadays, I don't know if all of them, but I think they definitely grow up with a better sense, I think. You know, our generation, our parents didn't speak about things like that. It didn't occur to my mother to do stuff like that with me, because she was never taught that. You know, she just grew up and had to get on with it. So it is different parenting, societal expectations and things as well.
Did you, I'm slight aside, but did you notice the good wife thing that I posted? Yeah, he's talking about generational shift.
I was reading bits of it out to Chris, and Chris was like, yeah, why don't you do that for me? Why don't you do that for me? Yeah. And one of my favorite ones was like, don't bore him with your hobbies, because his interests are far more important than yours. Yeah. And having sex, a slight moan will suffice. Don't, you know, that's it. Maybe just a little. It was very funny. We watched a box set recently, and I can't remember what it's called, will come to mind, but set in the 30s, 40s, and she goes to bed with a full hair, makeup, everything. Yeah. She lies there. As soon as he's asleep, she goes and she washes off curlers in or whatever, sets her alarm for an hour before in the morning, before he wakes up, goes makeup, goes back to bed. I'm awake. And that's what she. Oh, wow. People did that shit. Wow. I could probably do with doing a little bit of that. I'm quite scary when I wake up in the morning. But isn't it incredible that there were books, obviously written by white men, because no woman would ever have written that. White men who decided what a wife should do. Be. Yeah, I mean, I think about, no wonder my mother was resentful. Yeah. Because she's trying to live up to that kind of thing, and you know, deep in your soul, that's not stacking up. Right. Yeah. No, me as well. I look back at my mum, and I feel sad for her that she didn't have the opportunities I'm having. You know, that I have now, the choices. I don't think if it had occurred to her, I don't think she would have got married. She certainly wouldn't have married my father. She wouldn't have got married when she did. She would have loved to have owned her own car and flat and gone to drama school and had loads of gay friends and go to theatre and do holidays and, you know, the kind of shit we can do now. Yeah. 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 Anyway. No, we're all right for time. I'm just okay. So have you, I mean, this,
as you know, I kind of come in with a vague idea of what we're going to do and then where we're going to go.
Very vague. Thanks, Babs.
Have you got something out of today? Because it's not been terribly structured, but has it?
No, it has. It has. Oh, and completely off the mark, I just remembered 5 minutes before I spoke to you that I haven't done the review, and I will. I haven't forgotten.
Oh God,
I had forgotten till I remembered, but now I've made a post-it note, so now I won't forget. But I had forgotten. Yes,
once you've done that, it'll be rubbish.
Definitely talking about you know, specificity with the surrender, and going through that is super helpful. I know you know, put it in a comment, but that's been really, it's almost like it's solidifying it. You have to feel it and breathe it and feel it move in your body. It's almost like you can't just sit still and say, I feel X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
They talk about dealing with trauma, that you can't go to, I don't know, whatever therapies and get rid of trauma. You've actually got to move your body, and I'm beginning to understand more and more the link of the stuff that we're feeling and the expression.
Yeah.
So the surrender one has been on my mind the last few days, was helpful to talk about today. And then definitely this thing of the values and the I am independent, I am open. And I'm going to do, just when I finish with you now, I'm going to do a quick 5 minutes, just get it down and ask myself the questions, you know, what how am I fair? How am I open? What does autonomy look like to me? And I think that's really important, because I've never really felt it or owned it.
No. And I think that's also really good if you link it with the surrender piece as well, to kind of tune in really acutely that as you go through it, when you're thinking of how, that you trust the feeling that comes with it. That any little kind of doesn't feel comfortable, then it's out. That's not in. It's got to have that feeling that tells you, yes, this is in the box, that's out of the box.
And I'm tapping into that feeling more with the surrender thing. I've very consciously noticed the last few days, sometimes I feel, and I probably always have, but until you're really aware of it or notice it, sometimes I'll feel a discomfort sitting on my chest. And before, up until a few weeks ago, you know, from when I started working with you and I had my overwhelm, you know, breaking things down now and just making things easier in my life has got rid of that. But that feeling of something not right, I feel a really, you know, it's like black and white, it's like a switch on and off. I can feel it. And in the past, I haven't noticed it or understood what it is, and I've pushed through, which is where that forcing comes from. And whether the forcing is by moving forward or withdrawal, but it's forcing. And now being aware that actually my body's flagging up like, well, this is, you know, you need to think about this. This is not where you want to go, or this is not what you want to be doing, or this doesn't sit right with you. And then to ask myself and to act accordingly, shift accordingly, or do whatever it is I need to do. Definitely getting a very, I mean, I've always known it, or maybe just haven't been in tune with it as I am now.
That's great. It's
Pretty cool. Friends always used to say, because I mean, I've been self-employed since 2008, and friends would always say to me, oh, you've been self-employed for so long, and that's really great, you know what you want and you're going for it, or whatever, you know, and you're brave to do it. And I often used to say to them, well, like, I don't have a choice, because the opposite of that I so don't want to. You can see what I'm doing. I so don't want to do it. My body feels sick. I feel sick. I can't actually. It's so horrible. I can't actually force myself to do the, whatever it is I don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's, it's a single swim. I have to go with the self-employment because that is what allows me to breathe.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Cool, knowing your body or understanding the signs, I suppose.
Yes, and yes, exactly, understanding them. And if you don't, I mean, you've also now got tools that if you go, ooh, but you don't, like, the answer doesn't come to you straight away. The tools like the pottery, the getting on the bike, the doing the dressmaking are ways you can go, okay, I don't know the answer right now, but, and you go and do something else and just wait. And don't rush it, don't push it.
Yeah, and that's new because I've always rushed and pushed, and not just fixing others or wanting answers from others, but from myself. And that's definitely always been a thing of something happens right now. What are we going to do? Sort it. And it's not always, well, it's never the way really. I just need to step back.
Yeah.
Did I tell you I went and did 2 hours of pottery yesterday?
No, you didn't. Whoa.
I phoned my teacher and I said, can I rent her studio for a couple of hours? And she said, yes. And it was snowing and I had the music on and it was light and it's warm and her studio is so well stocked and comfortable, and it was lovely. And I didn't do particularly well. I threw 3 little pots. The first 2 were not good, they got chucked out. The third one was okay, and I started down the rabbit hole of why am I bothering, and it's not that great, and other people learn quicker than I do, and yada yada yada. And then I reminded myself, I thought of you, and I thought, okay, stop and like go back to when you were in flow and how good it was feeling. And I stood and I closed my eyes and I remember the sun and the snow and the music and the feeling of just flow and like enjoyment, pure enjoyment. And I thought, well, that's why I do it, regardless of the outcome. Obviously I'd like to get better, but regardless of the outcome, and it's only by doing that I'm going to get to where I throw the perfect pot eventually, but just not now. So yeah, it's cool.
That's lovely. Well, I'm glad. I'm delighted. So I look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Yes, look forward to seeing you.
And yeah, anything, just jot it down. But as you know, we're not heavily structured. We'll go wherever we need to go.
No, I like it. It's good with me. Good for me.
Cool.
It's the way I work too.
Good. All right. Well, have a lovely couple of days and good luck with that dress.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed. That's one of my.
So I have never, ever, I don't know what I'm thinking. Look, it's quite simple. And I just thought, on the Great Sewing Bee, they had some celebrities that hadn't really done anything and they managed to put a skirt together. So I'm sure I can do something.
Well, maybe you'll encourage me to give it a go. Who knows?
Well, I hope so, because Sam encouraged me. She inspired me, and I bought the pattern and material, and now I'm doing it. So
nice. I think it's great.
Just do it.
Yeah. All right. Take care. I'm sorry I stuck with this background, but I couldn't figure out how to change it in the end.
Well, this is what we've got. All right. Cool.
All right.
Have a good 2 days, and I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, you too.
Oh, needy dogs.
Bye, dogs.
Bye.
Bye.